The streets might not know everything, but we've got the full story. And trust me, it's wilder than anyone could have guessed. It all exploded in court when Chrissy's biggest secret came out, and it hit Jim Jones like a punch to the gut. 1 minute things were tense, and the next, Jim lost it. He snapped in front of everyone and nearly threw hands with Cameron right there in the courthouse hallway. It wasn't just some Harlem beef either. This shook the entire hip-hop scene. What made it worse was what Jim yelled at Cam. It wasn't just anger, it was betrayal. People started whispering that Cam knew all along. Others think Chrissy planned it, and now everyone's afraid to talk. But there's more. A missing witness, a leaked document, and an audio clip that claims to catch the exact moment Jim realized he'd been played for years. So why's everyone so quiet now? Because this isn't just drama, it's deep. And we're about to pull it all into the light. Let's start with the courtroom. No one expected what happened that day. The vibe was heavy, like everyone knew something was about to go down. And when the judge read that document out loud, everything changed. Chrissy had been hiding something serious. You could feel the shock in the room. Jim jumped up, his voice raw, shouting, "She's lying! This is a setup!" He looked like he was about to explode. Then he turned to Cam and said, "You knew. Don't lie to me." Cam just stared back, calm but unreadable. The two locked eyes, their whole history flashing between them. That tension? You could cut it with a knife. Cam stood and said, "Let's take this outside." Jim wasn't trying to hear that. He stormed out, furious, with half the courtroom still stunned in their seats. Outside, Jim was pacing, trying to process everything. The betrayal wasn't just about Chrissy. It was about trust, brotherhood, loyalty, everything that mattered to him. "She played me," he said to Cam, eyes burning. "And you didn't say a thing." "I didn't know," Cam replied. "Not the whole story. I got your back." Jim wasn't convinced. "How long were you gonna let her fool me?" Cam looked down. He didn't have an answer. They both knew something bigger was going on, something deeper than anyone had admitted. Then came the media. Reporters swarmed in, cameras flashing, voices shouting. Did Chrissy betray Jim? Is this why Dipset's falling apart? Jim snapped. "Y'all don't know anything," his voice shaking. He wasn't just mad, he was humiliated. And with every flash of a camera, it got worse. Cam pulled him aside and said quietly, "We've got to stay calm. The world's watching." Jim nodded, but his heart was pounding. There was too much going on to think straight. Then his phone buzzed. Another message, and another. The screen lit up nonstop. It was overwhelming. And just when he thought it couldn't get worse, a call came in. Jim answered, and the voice on the other end hit him like a brick. "You really don't know, do you?" the voice said. "Know what?" Jim asked, confused. "She's been running circles around you. You've only seen the surface. It's a whole lot darker underneath." Then the call cut out. Jim stood there frozen. His mind was spinning. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was planned, strategic, cold. Then a message came through from Chrissy. "We need to talk. You don't know the full story. Please don't do anything crazy." He stared at it, feeling sick. After everything, now she wanted to explain? But before he could even think about replying, another message followed. A location. A quiet place only they knew. A place filled with memories. But now it felt like a trap. "I'm going," Jim said to Cam, "but I'm not going in blind." Cam nodded. "I've got your back, but stay sharp." That night, they pulled up to the spot. Jim's fists were clenched, heart pounding. The only light came from a street lamp. Inside, Chrissy sat alone, her face calm, but clearly hiding something. Jim walked up slowly. What the hell is going on, Chrissy? You played me, lied to me, and now you want to talk? She looked up, her voice soft. I never meant for it to happen this way. I swear. Jim wasn't buying it. His jaw tightened. You've been running games. Was any of it real? Chrissy hesitated. It started as something else, but things changed. I didn't know how to fix it. The pain in Jim's face was real. You let me look like a fool out there, in front of everyone. You let Cam carry your secret. Her eyes filled with tears. He didn't know everything, either. Jim took a breath, trying to stay calm. But the truth was breaking him inside. Everything he thought he knew, every promise, every moment, was unraveling. And just when he thought he'd heard it all, Chrissy leaned in and whispered something that made his blood run cold. There's more, and it's going to come out, soon. Jim backed away, shaking his head. If you're hiding more, it's over. She nodded slowly. I know. As Jim and Cam walked out into the night, one thing was clear. This was just the beginning. The lies, the secrets, the betrayal. They were only scratching the surface. And the storm that was coming, it was going to change everything. Jim folded his arms tightly across his chest, staring at Chrissy. I never wanted to hurt you, Jim, she said softly, her voice trembling. She looked down at the floor, searching for the right words. But there are things I couldn't tell. You. It wasn't just about me. Jim's eyes burned with anger. What does that even mean? Stop feeding me excuses. Just tell me the truth. Chrissy took a shaky breath. I didn't have a choice. They've been threatening me, and they have things on me, things that could ruin my life. I had to go along with it. Jim stared at her, completely stunned. Who's been threatening you? He demanded. Before Chrissy could answer, the door behind them slammed shut, and the room was suddenly dark. Jim's heart pounded in his chest as a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was someone he never expected to see again, someone who had been pulling strings from the background all along. The silence was thick as Jim stood frozen, staring at the man who stepped forward. His fists clenched, and his eyes darted to Chrissy, who looked just as shocked. Who are you? Jim asked, his voice low and filled with dread. The figure stepped into the dim light. Jim's breath caught in his throat. Cameron? He whispered in disbelief. Jim, Cameron said in a cold, almost sorrowful voice. You don't know everything, but you will. It's time you saw the bigger picture. Jim shook his head, his world spinning. No, you've been by my side through everything. How could you? Chrissy glanced between the two men, her eyes wide. Jim looked betrayed. You've both been lying to me from the start, he muttered. Cameron's face shifted briefly, almost like he felt guilty, but the emotion quickly disappeared. This isn't a setup, Jim. It's the truth. I've been working behind the scenes for a long time. Chrissy was never the main target. You were. Jim stumbled backward, the words hitting him like a punch. You've been helping them? He said, his voice cracking. Yes, Cameron replied quietly. But not for the reasons you think. You were the key. I was the one feeding them information, watching your every move. But I'm done now. With them. And with you. Jim's chest tightened. You think you can just walk away from all this? Cameron didn't flinch. You were too loyal to see what was really happening. Outside, a car engine roared to life. Cameron motioned toward the door. Let's go. Jim hesitated, but followed. The cold air hit his face as they stepped outside. A black SUV waited for them. The moment Jim climbed in, he knew nothing would be the same. They drove through the night until they stopped in front of a rundown building. Inside, shadowy figures sat around a table. One stood up, and Jim froze. You're in deeper than you think, the man said with a dark grin. This is just the beginning.